When God chooses you, you can't help but be different. So you have to look at it a little differently. Why would you want to stay on the boat? Why would you want to stay on the boat? You want to get off the boat and go tell everybody about it. You want to explain how God stepped in. You want to show people how God is real. God is helping you. Just open your eyes and see how God is helping you.
3, 2, 1, yeah.
Welcome to the New Path, New You podcast. My name is Ron Cool, and I am so excited that you're here today. This episode started with my quiet time before my men's group this last week. And it's titled Beyond the Boat, Breaking Barriers with Faith. I'll kind of walk you through how it got there, but I really felt God has been telling me, get out of the boat, get out of the boat. Now, I've shared in previous podcasts about Peter stepping out onto the water and keeping his eyes on Jesus and walking on the water. And then when he didn't, he started sinking, and felt God was speaking to me through this. I saw it multiple times. I was reading it in multiple places over multiple days about me getting out of a boat. And I was like, okay, that must mean I need to stop doing something I'm doing. You know, I'm in a boat, I'm in, comfort, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, whatever that is. And then one morning in my quiet time, I was in Hebrews 11, and I was learning and reading about faith and just all these amazing characters of faith. And I've shared this before. My Bible is the Men of Character Bible, and it highlights different men in the Bible and gives you practical things that you can use as a man in your life today. Well, anyway, I'm reading Hebrews 11, and the next page is, I call it a green page because, one, it's green, and it's just how this Bible puts it together. It says, Noah, a man who walked with God. And as I'm reading this and reading all the different pieces, and we'll touch on it throughout this podcast, it got me thinking, wait a second, Noah built a boat. He built a boat. In Genesis 8:15-17, Noah emerges from that boat. So he emerges from the ark, stepping onto dry ground after the flood. Noah faces the vast unknown, but he hung onto God's promise. Go out from the ark, you and your wife and your sons wives with you. Bring out every living thing that is with you, birds and animals, and every creepy thing that creeps on the earth, that they may swarm on the earth and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. Goes on in Genesis 9, where we see Noah's covenant with God in the rainbow and God's enduring faithfulness and mercy, which then inspired Noah's unwavering trust, which then you get reminded in Hebrews 7. By faith, Noah, being warned by God concerning events as yet unseen, in reverent fear, constructed an ark for the saving of his household. By this he condemned the world and became an heir of righteousness that comes by faith. So let's just kind of talk about, as I was reading this, the part of my Bible on the green page that caught my attention. It talks about when we experience salvation and decide to walk with God, we may experience hardships and trials of many kinds. We cannot totally escape the consequences of living in a fallen world. Noah becomes our example when we feel we are sailing with God into these uncharted waters. As Noah lived as righteous and a blameless life in the midst of a wicked world, so we must be faithful in our walk with God as we encounter daily challenges and temptations. Peter urges us to make every effort to be found without spot or blemish in his sight. Now, in the power of God's Spirit, Noah did it. In the power of that same Spirit, so can we. It like dawned on me. And then I'm talking with, the men in my small group, and I'm like, man, I don't think it has anything to do with what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. I think if you look at the flood, and maybe this is going to help somebody out there, and I hope it does. Maybe you're going through a hard time right now. Maybe you found Christ and you're making some changes. And I started looking back at, the last 5 years of my life where I pretty much put my wife and my kids on a boat and we flooded our old life. We got, I've spoke about this multiple times on this show, but we got rid of secular music. We got rid of idols. We got rid of everything that didn't please God. So we flooded our old life. And then we've been on a boat. As the waters were receding, we kept being faithful to God. The water kept receding, but we were on a boat these 5 years, right? So then, as the water is gone, you can't stay on the boat. You have to open the door and get off the boat or get out of the boat. And as you walk on this new land, let's just say hypothetically, the boat rose and sank in the exact same spot for Noah. The land's still different because the water changed it. So your life, my life, I'm in the same house I was, same family that I had, flooded my old life, became someone God was calling me to be. Now the boat rests back on the land. The land is different. Your mind is different. Your attitude is different. What you're chasing is different. You have all this stuff on the boat. So everything that was on the boat with you, God protected in that season of the flood, that you flooded everything in your life. And now it's time for you to get out of the boat with the stuff that you had on the boat. So the stuff you still had on the boat, it's time for you to get off the boat and go be fruitful. As I was sharing this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is that discernment piece. I got a lot of peace around it. Last episode was around people pleasing and really getting your identity in God and Christ. And that's helping me get off this boat, because that's the new me that's getting off of this boat to get on this new path for my journey and what God's asking me to do. So beyond the boat takes faith. The boat's safe because there was water all around you. You were flooding. Everything was flooded, but you were nice and safe on this boat. And now he's asking me to get off the boat and have faith and trust in him to do what he's asking me to do. And I just got to get on the path and start walking. So just as Noah stepped out of the ark into a new world, we too can step out in faith, trusting in God's guidance in our lives. And I know we've all been in places where we didn't understand or we couldn't see it. And it was funny because one of the guys in my group asked, have you seen an olive branch to let you know the water's, receded and the land's dry? And it was interesting. I've talked about this on a couple shows ago. But yeah, the olive branch, I've been seeing olive branches coming. I didn't relate it to it. But I also, here's the key. I didn't act upon what I instantly thought thought God was saying. I really studied the word. I dove into the Bible. I connected with people that I know are walking with God, that I trust. I connected with mentors. And I didn't act. Old Ron would have acted. Old Ron probably would have jumped out of the boat before the land was completely dry and just started building. But that's not who I am. You know, the other piece that is just amazing is Noah had unwavering trust in God's promises in everything. Didn't matter the uncertainty. And we can find strength and courage in just that example. Just that example. And as you sit and look over what could possibly feel like empty space or unknowing land that you're about to walk onto, it doesn't matter what you see or what you feel. It's what God's asking you to do. And do you trust him? And if you trust him, continue taking those steps so you can walk in faith and just embrace the adventure ahead. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see, which is literally what we just talked about. You're about to walk onto new, fresh land. Not who you used to be, but who God has made you to be during this storm, because you were protected on a boat. And just like Noah, he brought everything that God asked for him to bring onto this boat. He brought animals, brought creepy crawlies, as it says, brought his family, sons, wives. When you go back and really think about just Noah in general, think about being in that position to, like, I don't know if you guys have ever gone to the Ark in Kentucky. It is daunting. As a people pleaser, which clearly Noah was not, you know, I could just imagine the ridicule this guy got. And are you receiving ridicule based on what God is asking you to do? And are you going to push through and build a boat? You know, in Genesis 6:13-14, God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is what God instructed Noah to build the ark, demonstrating Noah's obedience to God's command. 7:5. And Noah did all that the Lord commanded him, which is all around Noah's obedience to God's instruction. Then what was interesting, in Genesis 7:16, the Lord closed the door behind him, which symbolizes God's protection for Noah and his family during the flood. It showcases God's faithfulness to those who trust him. So if you're going through a storm, get on God's boat. He'll shut the door behind you and keep you safe. And then when it's time to get out of the boat, God opens the door of the boat for you to go. With everything you've learned on the boat, all the faith and faithfulness and trust that you've learned during your storm, to get on a new path and start a new journey to follow God in this new land. So as I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, get out of the boat isn't necessarily anything I'm doing or not doing. It's literally taking a step and doing what God's asking me to do, which is go be fruitful. Take the things you've learned and everything that was on the boat, and now it's time to get out of the boat the storm that you went through is over. And that's just, frankly, really healing to say for me. And I hope someone that's listening to this today, who's going through a storm, who hasn't gotten a boat to have God protect them, I hope you just stop and listen and then ask God for help. He wants to be there for you. He wants you to seek him. So seek him, ask for his guidance, ask for his protection. Because once you get on the boat, he will shut the door behind you and you will be protected in that boat. And during that storm, you're going to learn things. You're going to be seeking him. You're going to be talking to him. Then when the storm's over and the waters recede, it could be tempting to stay in the boat where it's comfortable and safe. But God wants you to be fruitful. God wants you to go make an impact for his glory. God wants you to go tell your testimony to people today. How did God save you? How did God step in? My wife and I, we have a little plaque next to our bedroom door, and it says, "And then God stepped in." That's all it says. And then God stepped in. Because when God steps in, you can't help but be different. When God chooses you, you can't help but be different. So you have to look at it a little differently. Why would you want to stay on the boat? Why would you want to stay on the boat? You want to get off the boat and go tell everybody about it. You want to explain how God stepped in. You want to show people how God is real. God is helping you. Just open your eyes and see how God is helping you. Give him thanks. Be grateful. But more importantly, get off the boat and start stepping on that new path. And just remember, we too have the same spirit in us that Noah did. And we too can walk in faith with God. I'm going to end today's show with Hebrews 11:6. Now, without faith, it is impossible to please God, since the one who draws near to him must believe that he exists and he rewards those who seek him. So like I said, if you're in the middle of a storm, storms are brewing, you're drowning, seek him. Ask for his hand. Ask for his guidance. Ask for his help. That's what he's waiting for. He wants you to return to him. He wants you to return to him. So I hope today this was healing for you. I know it was healing for me. Thank you for being on this journey. I can't wait to hear about your new path that's creating a new you. My name is Ron Cool. See you next week.